Hey Ocean Crew, welcome to my channel. I'm Karen and I'm from Ocean Chicks Films. Tonight I'm doing a comparison of the films The Thing from Another World from 1951 and The Thing from 1982. And I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Dan from Mr. Dan of Horror on here. I'll link him down below. He encouraged me to watch The Thing from Another World and talk about it. And he's done the same thing on his channel. So go check out his review. It's excellent. It's probably better than mine. He knows more than I do. Both films are adapted from the horror sci-fi novella Who Goes There? It was also printed under the name The Thing from Another World and an extended version called Frozen Hell. The story follows a group of researchers trapped at an Antarctic post with a shape-shifting monster able to imitate and absorb any living being. And just so you know, this video will have spoilers, so if that's not cool, just like the usual, you can click off and we'll catch you on the next one. I haven't read the book yet, but it sounds like the book is a lot closer to John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982 than it is from The Thing from Another World from 1951. While the films were both made independently, they have a lot of similarities to each other, but there are also a lot of differences. For example, one is in black and white and the other is in color. And they're both very distinctly defined by their decade, one being the 50s and one being the 80s. I thoroughly enjoyed both, each in their own way. And I especially love that the opening title credit is the same thing, except that one is black and white and one is color. I really love that graphic. Now let's have a look at each film. The Thing from Another World from 1951. Scientist Dr. Carrington reports a UFO at his North Pole research base to the Air Force, who send out a team headed by Captain Patrick Henry to investigate. They find a spaceship and an alien creature frozen in the ice. When the thing is thawed and released, they find themselves fighting for their lives. Produced by Howard Hawks, directed by Nyby, starring Kenneth, Toby, Robert Cornthwaite, Douglas Spenser, and James Arness as The Thing. The Thing from 1982. At a remote research center in Antarctica, a group of American researchers take in a dog that ultimately attacks them. The survivors end up stranded in a battle against a vicious creature, fighting for their lives. Directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell, Keith David, and Wilford Brimley. So those are the films in a nutshell. Let's take some time and break them down. In The Thing from Another World, we have this incredible humanoid alien monster that was played by James Arness, and Lee Greenway was the guy who created the thing. He did 18 sculptures of it before he came to the one that they used in the film. And of course that was translated into makeup and costume and prosthetics and all of that. But I think he just did such a wonderful job. It's a little bit of a shame to me and to others that you didn't get to see the monster more in this film, because it was pretty incredible. The Thing in this film is huge. He's like well over 6 feet tall, and he feeds on human blood. And the crew even end up growing offspring for this thing. There's a scene where its arm gets bit off by the dogs, the sled dogs, as they're being attacked by it. And they study the arm and take off the seeds from this arm and plant them, and they grow into pods that are supposedly going to grow more of these alien creatures. They have this kind of greenhouse where they're growing them in this box, and they're nourishing them with blood. It's really crazy. And the thing in this film is kind of this solitary creature that I sort of feel sorry for, because they've destroyed his spaceship and they're trying to kill him because, you know, rightly so, because he's trying to kill them and you know, drink their blood, and he kills all of the dogs. But I can kind of side a little bit with the mad scientist doctor who's trying to find another way to communicate with him and save him rather than kill him. I can kind of relate to that, because you do kind of get that feeling that this poor thing is stuck there and has no way of getting home. So I can kind of see that. But I get the point of them trying to kill it to protect themselves too. And like I said before, it's a little disappointing that you only get to see the monster like for a very short time in its entirety. And a lot of people kind of criticize that as well. I'm not the only one, but I guess in a way it's kind of a good thing because then it leaves things up to your imagination for the rest of the film. It adds to the tension and that kind of thing. In this film, the thing can be frozen, just like the other film, and he is not killed by fire, like in the other film. He is hurt by fire, but what kills him is being electrocuted. So it's got that real monster movie kind of feel to it. In John Carpenter's film, the alien travels through animals and humans from host to host in a kind of very grotesque, scary, survivalistic kind of thing. So it's found frozen, just like in the first movie, and it travels through one of the sled dogs into the next camp. Now, I think hands down, Carpenter's version of the thing is the alien is much scarier. Rob Bottin's practical effects are absolutely brilliant. And I think with John Carpenter's version, you get to see the alien much more, so it's kind of a no-brainer. You're going to be more scared. Whereas back in the day in the 50s, it was more subtle and it was more, you didn't get to see it as often, and so that threat of it popping up at any time was kind of scary. So both in different ways, both in their own way were good, but I think that the more modern film is much, much more terrifying. While both films are set in the snow in the middle of nowhere, The Thing from Another World was in the North Pole. That's where they say. And it was in reality filmed at Glacial National Park and in an ice storage unit in Los Angeles. And the way they did it, you have this cozy indoor scene where everybody's nice and warm, and every time they open a door, they go outside, it's this blustery snowstorm with howling winds and the snow coming down so strong that you can't see like 2 feet in front of your face. I love that. It's got that real old school feel to it, and it's a neat setting. John Carpenter's The Thing was set in Antarctica, but it was filmed in Alaska, British Columbia, and studio sets in LA. And that film's a completely different feel. It's got that sort of very cold, in the middle of nowhere, snow, very isolated, but there's not blustery snowstorm going on really throughout the movie. It just feels like you're very trapped and there's no one around. And I think that setting's pretty cool too, because it adds to the horror of the whole thing, being stuck out there with this alien with nobody to help you. In the first film, The Thing from Another World, they're all kind of military based, and they have higher ups that they have to answer to. And for some reason, they do have 2 female characters in this film, although I find them to be largely unnecessary because they've portrayed them in a way that just, I don't understand why they're even there. I suppose to give it a bit of a love interest that potentially is happening there between the captain and this receptionist or clerk. But she's all she does is crack silly jokes, and she seems to not react in an appropriate way for everything that's going on around her. So it's kind of strange. And the other character's barely in it at all. Whereas in John Carpenter's The Thing, he opted for a fully male cast, except like I had said before in my previous video, which you can watch of my review of The Thing, that there was one female crew member who actually left because she was pregnant. So maybe that's why John decided to opt out with the women in the film, because the first film it seemed very unnecessary. I'm not sure. But it's kind of an interesting kind of thing to think about. It's also interesting that in the first film, they have military people to answer to, higher ups, and they can't just make decisions based on what they want to do. They have to listen to what they're told to do. And in John Carpenter's film, you have a bunch of scientists, researchers that don't answer to anybody, and he was criticized for that. But in John Carpenter films, typically he tends to leave things somewhat vague that way so that they're open for interpretation. And I really love that about his films. In the 1952 film, you've got a much bigger cast of people, and it's a bit harder to follow all of them. I found myself forgetting names and not being able to remember who was who except for the main characters. In the second film, John Carpenter's, you've got a much more tight-knit cast of people, and you get to know each individual character very well. I love that. And it's neat too that in the first film there were planes, in the second film there were helicopters. So that's kind of interesting. In both films we have sled dogs, and they are interacted with by the alien in different ways. In the first film they are killed off camera by the alien creature, the Thing, and drained of their blood. In the second film, the alien creature uses them as a host to transfer itself. And so there's a lot of blood, guts, and gore and violence in the second film compared to the first. Both are equally as horrifying, I think, if you care anything at all for animals, and I do. And it was very sad to see those scenes. The language phrases in each film are so very different. The first film would say things like, "It's an alloy," "It's a flying saucer," "It's all fouled up," "Oh, for Pete's sake." I love those phrases. Man, that flashes me back. My parents used to say things like that all the time. Whereas in the second film, you get a lot of, "Oh, for fuck's sakes," "fuck off," that kind of thing. Such a huge difference, and I love that. The way the Thing is destroyed in each film is different. So in the first film, the dynamite blows up the spaceship. Fire doesn't kill the Thing, but electrocution does. So it's a very different effect. You almost kind of feel very sympathetic towards the monster when it's getting electrocuted, actually. In the second film, John Carpenter's, we see the alien creature blown up. So that's how it's destroyed. Much, much different. I'm not sure which one's better or which one's worse. I think they're both good in their own way. I chose a line from each film that I really enjoyed. So in the first film, there's a crew member, and he's chosen to sit in the room and guard the Thing in the block of ice. And he says, "I could use something to read, maybe a horror story." I love that. And in John Carpenter's film, the second one, the guy that is taking care of the sled dogs says, "Don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and it's pissed off." I love that line. I think that's so hilarious. That's the part where he's there watching the animals and the alien creature kind of explodes out of the one sled dog. Yeah, that scene. So as far as the feel of each film goes, the first film was kind of a slow burn, and I'm sure back in the day it was very scary. Nowadays, maybe not so much, more of a cult following. It's fun to watch, you know, it's an old black and white film with a great monster in it. The second film, I felt full of jump scares like crazy, so I don't know anyone that wouldn't be scared by it seeing it for the first time. Both films have way too many cooks in the kitchen, so that leads for lots of tension and arguing and that kind of thing. Both films have a doctor that screws everything up. The first film being the doctor who has this moral conscience and wants to save the creature. The second one being the doctor's overcome by an alien and, you know, it's killing people. As far as the kill counts go in each film, the first film, you have a whole bunch of people that live, so it's kind of a happy ending. In the second film, you have 2 people that live, but you're not really sure if they're going to survive in the long run. So 2 totally different kinds of endings, equally both as good in their own way. I enjoyed, I think, maybe a little bit more John Carpenter's version, but the first movie, the black and white one, was really excellent for that style of film, especially for back in the day. And I didn't see it way back when. I know a few people I asked didn't see it either. I recommend both films. I think they were both very good to watch. I really want to have both in my collection. So for my review, I give both films 5 shark bites. I really love them. You should go watch them. And don't forget to go check out Mr. Dan of Horror's review of The Thing from Another World. It's excellent as well. Well, that's it, guys. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of these 2 films, which one's better, which one's worse. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up because it helps me out a lot, and subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, interviews, Final Girls of Horror, countdowns, all of that good stuff. I just want to say thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope you're enjoying all of these films I'm reviewing lately. They're science fiction, a little bit different than my usual horror, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I just want you guys to have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you again soon. Bye, guys.